Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, afternoon, whatever time zone you happen to be in. I'm very excited for today's webinar. It's a part of our partnership with Skillstorm. CompTIA joining us today also for first steps into a cybersecurity career. So we're going to have some great content for you around that. It is an interactive webinar, so we look forward to taking your questions and having a real dialogue here. I'm Lindy Kaiser. I'm the Director of Content with Clearance Jobs. I get to be your host today and take your questions. So reminder, type your questions into the chat box on the right-hand side of the screen as we go along. We're also joined by James Stanger. He is a panelist and also Chief Technology Evangelist with CompTIA. And then also Seth Parker. He has participated in other webinars with Clearance Jobs. So if you recognize his face, he is here today. And he's a career advisor with Skillstorm. And if you don't know Skillstorm, they have a lot of innovative, great solutions to help upskill, reskill, build out your technological skill set. And so they're here to talk about that today. They have outbooked me. So this is by far my favorite webinar of the month or perhaps ever because of the bookcases. So James, I'm already a big fan of yours based on the bookshelf behind you. So if anybody ever said technologists don't read, you heard it here. First, second, third, fourth, that there's a lot of books behind us. So with that, I want to turn it over to you guys, kind of talk through what are we going to get today? What should we expect from today's webinar?
Absolutely, yeah. You can take it, James, or I can take it. Doesn't matter to me.
No, Seth, you go right ahead, man.
Okay, yeah. Well, I appreciate want to reiterate what Lindy said. We appreciate everyone joining. We're going to kind of go through in a similar format to what we've done a lot of the webinars in the past. James is going to kind of talk through what the certifications that CompTIA offers and how that can open doors for you in the tech world and in your career. And like Lindy said, whether that is upskilling, reskilling, whether that's getting into the industry for the first time, he'll talk to you a little bit about some of the opportunity that's there with the certifications that you can obtain, specifically in cybersecurity. But of course, we all know CompTIA has a plethora of ways that you can approach the tech industry. And then I'll talk to you guys a little bit about how Skillstorm can come alongside you in that effort to gain these certifications that can provide a lot of value to you in your tech industry.
Well, it's fantastic to be here. Thanks, Seth. Hi, everyone. I'm James Stanger. I come from CompTIA. If you've never heard of CompTIA before, we are an industry representative. We are the voice of the IT industry, and we listen very carefully to what the IT industry says. That's why we have morphed into an education company and why we're here. So it's great to be here. As Chief Technology Evangelist, Lindy, thanks for getting my name right, by the way. Usually people get like Stranger and Strangler or something like that. But so thank you for that. It's really good to be here because I love talking with folks and getting people into the industry. Just last week I was in Atlanta, for example. The week before that I was in the UK. In January I was in Japan, for example. These are places where I go and I talk to hiring managers every day and ask them what they're looking for. And folks are looking for the right qualified people, right, Seth?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, we have our slide here that says, what is CompTIA? Yeah. We've gone through that. Now we have CompTIA Security Plus. So we're going to go through some of maybe the course overviews today. Sure. Some of the courses that you can expect with CompTIA.
Absolutely. Some people, and Seth, you want to just talk about this in terms of just how it works. Some people really love, everybody loves Security Plus because you could argue it's kind of the gateway into cybersecurity. Now, you might be asking yourself, well, where do I start, right? Security Plus is a great way to start. But here's the thing, when it comes to the overall getting into cybersecurity, you need to enter where it makes sense for you, right, Seth? It's just so important. And the reason I say this is that everybody has different levels of where they begin their cybersecurity journey. Recently, I was talking to somebody, her name is Julie Brierly, lives in the Atlanta area. About a year and a half ago, she was an elementary school teacher. All right, that's what she did, right? She corralled first and second graders. For those of you in the outside of the United States, first and second graders would be, in early primary school. She now does a lot of governance and risk management and compliance. And the reason I bring her up is that she started her cybersecurity journey with things such as A+, Network Plus, before she got into Security Plus. But Security Plus is so cool because it really teaches you what's important to understand for the rest of your absolute cybersecurity foundation, because it like any good certification, and there's so many good certifications out there from CompTIA, from other organizations, is created by literally thousands, really tens of thousands of working IT professionals. So it's not like just Seth and I kind of got together and said, hey, this sounds cool. And it's not come up with a group of people, 10, 15 people. It's come up with by thousands of people. So enter where it makes sense for you to join in. And when it comes to Security Plus, it really does kind of set the standard or set the bar for people who are aspiring into cybersecurity, and then those who are more, I'll say, adept and who have the skills and the abilities to really get into security.
Yeah, just to speak on what you're talking about, James, there's a lot of people that we talk to day in and day out who are at various points in their tech skill set, their interest in tech. And so for some people, it might make sense to start the Security Plus. Some people, it might make sense to get more of a core foundation through maybe your A+ certifications, or even maybe your ITF Plus certification. But yeah, so certainly, the Security Plus course is something that Skillstorm offers, right? And we'll talk about it, as we kind of go on. We can kind of go through a few slides. I think, James, you might be talking a little bit more about, Security Plus, the industry, but bottom line is Skillstorm is coming alongside you guys to help offer a course that will teach you how to pass the Security Plus exam. So, James, if you want to speak on some of the different pathways that people can take right here in the cybersecurity industry.
Sure. Right now at CompTIA, we've outlined, forgive the glasses here, I got to be able to see what I'm talking to. We've outlined roughly really three pathways: infrastructure, cybersecurity, and data analytics. And I know we're here to talk about cybersecurity, but I was talking to a friend of mine about 2 years ago. I know him pretty well. His name is Mike Garrity. You have to look up Geragghty, Mike Garrity. He's the CISO for the state of New Jersey, for example. I know a lot of those folks. And Mike once said, well, you can't protect a network unless you know how a network works, which I think is a great quote. And it took me probably about a year to be able to quote that correctly. The reason I bring that up is that you've got to secure something. And you could talk about securing information. That's great. Talk about securing people. That's great. We could talk about needing to know the infrastructure first. So A+, you could look at, well, that's a help desk cert, isn't it? Which it is, right? It's aimed at that series of job roles about help desk. But another way that you could look at this, and Teresa Sears, who works for CompTIA, she taught me this. She said you could actually look at A+ as endpoints. And you know what I mean, Seth, by endpoints? In other words, teaching things such as how your mobile phone works, right? And that's really important because mobile phones, even IoT devices, obviously PCs and things like that, but it teaches how those are made up, the memory, the hardware, etc. So that when people talk about a cross-frame browsing attack or something, or some form of injection attack or person in the middle attack, things like that. Well, first you've got to be able to know what is in the middle. You have to understand what these endpoints are doing and how they talk to each other. And then if we really get into the talking to each other, there's Network Plus. So the infrastructure is what you're securing. For cybersecurity, in the cybersecurity pathway, again, a lot of people go along the A+, Network Plus, and then you have security, and then you can go into different areas. For example, CYSA Plus is our security analytics cert. Pen Test Plus is our pen testing cert. Security analytics, people will call blue team. Pen Test Plus called red team. CASP Plus is our advanced cert. We also have a data pathway, which is very important. But the whole idea is that you need to get the skills that really help you. And that's why we have skill set upskilling programs in things such as Linux, as cloud, and of course in security. So is that where you wanted me to go with that, Seth, or were you looking for me to do something else?
I think what you're highlighting here is that CompTIA has got a lot of different pathways to help upskill you in what you're most interested in cybersecurity. And there's an unlimited number of jobs out there. You can go to, I remember last time we did a webinar with CompTIA, we talked about, so here's some of the options, and James can talk about some of these. last time we did a webinar with CompTIA, even Kevin pointed out cyberseek.org as a great resource that you can kind of go and see some of the available jobs in the cybersecurity field in the US, what they pay, you know, where they're located. And so really good resource. But what I think James is, you know, highlighting for us here is that no matter what you're interested in, whether you're interested in cybersecurity, you know, there's so many different kind of pathways that can branch off from just the word cybersecurity. But it's important to start with a fundamental course, right, which would be the Sec Plus certification. So, yeah. So James, if you want to, you know, you're going to know more about these roles than I would. You want to speak briefly on some of these different roles that people can find themselves in?
You bet. One of the things that we could talk about, for example, is I think a lot of people will say, well, I want to get into security. And I remember 10, 20 years ago, anybody who wanted to get into security, they would always talk about forensics. That was the big word that was used, forensics. Nowadays, a lot of people, when they get into cybersecurity, they think there's just one or two different types of jobs out there. For example, pen testing. People talk about that. It's like, okay, I want to act like a hacker so that I can help help companies test their systems or test their people, right? More importantly, right? And that's great. Those are two, you know, forensics and pen testing are two roles. But like you said, Seth, there are so many of them out there. Earlier, I mentioned that lady, Julie Brierly, who does things on compliance. Compliance is another skill set. So let me speak a little bit to this graphic here. You'll notice that there's cybersecurity analytics, and we did some surveys of industry, and we asked what are some of the really important elements out there, different important job roles or even important skills out there. And cybersecurity analytics did come up come up as the highest one. And the reason it did, I think, is because more and more companies are realizing that if you focus on how to properly analyze what a hacker is doing, then you can identify trends. We all know about artificial intelligence, right? There's ChatGPT and all that. But the cybersecurity industry in and of itself has, the last few years, really centered on the idea that we gather data sets. And data sets is a fancy word for just saying any collection of data. And that could be packet captures. You know, you use a tool called Wireshark, and you can sniff packets off the internet, and you can analyze those. You could grab log files. What we're doing right now is being logged, right, in many different ways. How do you grab those log files to see, well, is somebody trying to attack, you know, this particular session? And log files can come from your mobile phone, your wearable. It can come from things, firewalls. It can come from intrusion detection devices. Most any device that is on the internet and doing things has the ability to send log files. My point is that we capture data sets. I know some people who are in the security analytics world that capture data sets about how you and I browse the web. And they go and they say, well, you know, there's Seth and James and there's Lindy. They're doing just fine. They're doing their job. They might go to Amazon occasionally to go on a break to go, you know, search for something in their, you know, buy some shoes or something. That's fine. But then what they do is they grab those data sets and they're like, well, here's the usual pattern of James's behavior. And there seems to be something out of the ordinary. And so it's this kind of anomaly detection. So security analytics is that sort of thing. When it comes to network security, you're talking about the ability to configure routers, the ability to configure firewall devices and other devices that do a great job of listening in on traffic, capturing data sets, and then giving information to people who are called Security Operations Center workers. SOC, Security Operations Center, SOC workers. These are the different types of jobs that are available, but that's just a few. You can even go into exotic terms such as threat hunters. Threat hunters are people who, they take those data sets and analyze them, but they also take that pen testing side of things and combine them. People will call them purple teamers. But so there's just a few of the different types of job roles that are out there. Another one could be things having to do with not just risk management. And it's interesting, I'll mention risk management. What's cool about risk management, I know a lot of people who are risk managers, they are not people who are incredibly technical in what they do in a sense. Well, let's put it this way, they're very technical in what they do, but it's not like they're great programmers first and then become security people. In fact, most people who get into the security profession don't have to have an incredible background in development and developing or programming. I think there are a lot of misconceptions out there talking about, like, well, if I want to get into security, I have to have years and years of knowledge in these things. And yes, you do need to upskill yourself. There's no question. But don't think for a second that it's going to take, well, I've got to get 4 years of college, then I've got to get another 4 years of programming, and then maybe I can go into security. You can accelerate yourself much more quickly. But this particular table, I think, does a pretty nice job of talking about the different types of skills that are used. For example, end user education. See where it is down there? I know a lot of security folks who spend a tremendous amount of time. They don't read log files so much. They don't even go into governance and risk management. They will basically focus on what it means to make it so that end users in a company compute more securely. They spend all their time kind of coming up with really cool ideas, what I call fake phishing campaigns, to where if you click on a link, it goes to a very nice thing saying, hey, if this was a real attack, your company and you would be in real trouble right now. But here's how you can avoid being fooled. So there are so many different types of jobs that are out
there. Yeah, and that's the thing that I'm glad that you highlighted, is that when you join into a cybersecurity career, you're not necessarily in a vacuum of 1 to 2 roles, right? There's endless opportunities available within the cybersecurity realm. And so that's important for you guys to know, is that CompTIA certifications can help you become qualified for a number of different roles. And so that's the very important thing to know, is that through certification, you're going to get the skill set needed to demonstrate to an employer, like, I have the skills needed to succeed in this role. And so that's the benefit of these CompTIA certifications for you. If you don't mind, Lindy, we can go to the next slide and kind of talk about what's there. Let's see what we got.
Before that, we go to that. Go ahead and go to that. But for example, with endpoint security, you'll notice that in the infrastructure pathway earlier, there was a slide. One of the slides talked about Linux Plus, and I'm a huge Linux fan. I love Linux. If you want to understand endpoint security, sure, you can go A+, Network+, Security+, etc. But if you really want to get into endpoint security, if that's a passion of yours, take Linux Plus. Because understanding Linux means you're going to understand so much of the cloud, so much of IoT and things like that. Do I see a new slide, or maybe my slides are behind?
So my screen has paused, but the next slide is skills needed for a successful cybersecurity career. So James, you probably have this deck memorized because you already talked about Linux. So the first 5, Linux, network protocols, hopefully it will unfreeze and catch up momentarily, but the next slide is talking about skills needed for a successful cybersecurity career, the first 5.
A lot of people have asked me, so James, if I wanted to get started, we'll focus on the technical side of it for right now. Another side of it, by the way, it has to do with the people skills, understanding time management and things. But let's get back into the technical side for a second. I fairly recently, it was back in September, was in Thailand of all places, just finishing up a tour of India, Singapore, and Thailand. And I'd heard the same thing from leaders in all 3 of those countries. The next week I was in the Pentagon talking to them, and they all said this. They said, too many of people who are coming into cybersecurity don't know the fundamentals of networking. Fundamentals of networking. And I'm like, what do you mean by the fundamentals of networking? And his name is Vice Chancellor Amorn Chomchoy in Thailand. And there's another gentleman that I know in the Pentagon was saying this. He said, things like the TCP handshake. Now, if you don't know what that is, don't worry, right? Don't worry about that. But the TCP handshake, it's a 3-way handshake, okay? Imagine when you go talk to somebody in person, a lot of times, what will you do? You'll reach out your hand, won't you, right? Reach out your hand, Seth. Here we go. There we go. Let's see if we can do a handshake. Is this the right way to do it? There we go. I'm going towards you. Is this gonna work? There we go. We're handshaking. There we go. Hello, right? So
there it is.
The way the handshake works is I reach out first, right? And then you do it again, right? There's the second handshake, right? And now we're connected. And so what happens in networking is a host wanting to will put out a SYN, right? And then you, Seth, will put out an ACK, an acknowledgement, right? So SYN is synchronized, ACK is acknowledgement, and then together is FIN. All right. The reason why I went through all this rigmarole, folks, is you know a lot more than a lot of people who are getting into cybersecurity right now. Okay, you just learned that. Now there's other fundamentals besides that. For example, DNS, domain name system, right? What's great about DNS is that I'm not much of a math person, all right? Wish I was. I'd probably do really well, but I'm not much of a numbers person. So as human beings, Seth and Lindy, how do we communicate? We communicate with words, right? So we go to CompTIA.org, right? Or what have you. Well, computers talk in terms of numbers, IP addresses, but they also talk in something in terms of MAC addresses. And the reason I bring this up is that hackers are really good at manipulating DNS, both for social engineering, right? So you might quickly see a link and, oh, there's CompTIA. I'll click on it and see what discount James has for me. But maybe that link is going to CompTIA.org, right? 2 A's, right? That's a totally different system, right? That's a trivial example of how attackers take advantage of things such as DNS. There are far more sophisticated examples. The reason I bring these things up, it's the fundamentals. And I was talking to a couple of folks who are hiring managers, people who want to hire people on this call, right? Once they get upskilled. And they say, too often I've got people that really don't know DNS like they should. And if you don't know DNS, you don't know the infrastructure, then you're not going to be able to get into security. So I thought I would just talk about those things. Is that, Lindy and Seth, where you wanted to go in terms of that discussion?
Yeah, I mean, it's really important for people to know that, especially like you said, you don't have to be a math person in order to enter into the cybersecurity field. And that is a common misconception because there are areas of tech that you do need to kind of have more of that math brain. Yeah, so like, when you go into software development, you're going to need to have more, you're going to be exposed to algorithms, right? And so you're going to need to have more of that, mathematical kind of conceptualized, you need to have that type of your brain work and running on all 8 cylinders, in order to function well. The cybersecurity field largely is not like that. Now, you can probably find some areas that are niche in cybersecurity where it helps to be mathematically minded, but a big barrier for a lot of people whenever they heard that the tech industry is a really good industry. I want to get into it. I heard the career opportunity is great. Salaries are really good. But, I just don't know if I have that skill set because I never was the math person, right? And so what James is saying here is really important to know that that's not necessarily a skill set that you have to get into a cybersecurity field, right? And so, yeah.
That's great. And I think, and here's the thing, here's another job role, and I don't mean it as a counter to what you're saying, because you're absolutely correct. There are so many jobs. The first job that I ever got was as a pen tester. And I've never been any good at math. Just trust me about that. So there's that. So that goes right along with what you're saying. You don't have to be some sort of calculus expert to do any of this. If you do have an interest in math, right? If you are a coder, well, we also need you in another niche or another area of cybersecurity, code analysis, code analytics. Basically, if code gets created, we need somebody to read through it and go, hey, I see what you did there. Here are some implications of what you did. Let's go ahead and fix that. Proactive security. A little rare, right? Security tends to be pretty reactive. But if you have that skill set, use it. And let me expand that point out just a little bit more. Think about your life history. Think about your previous experience. And you might be going, well, geez, I'm an Uber driver. What experience does that have with anything? Well, actually, a tremendous amount. So think about your life experience and how it's relevant, because it is. A couple examples. I know a person who was an Uber and Lyft driver. What do you do as an Uber and Lyft driver? You respond to tickets. You analyze the situation and you act accordingly. You work with some sort of machine, in this sense, a ticketing and scheduling app, right? And you fulfill a request. Security is very much like that in many cases. You will get a ticket that says there seems to be some sort of attack happening. You have to determine, is it an attack, is it not, or whatever. So if you've been in any sort of service industry, your previous history is important. And I'll end with this example. my first job that I got as a pen tester, I started out writing up a lot of things because they said, James, yeah, you got your technical skills, you can break into systems, that's great. You know how that works, you know how the hacker life cycle works, that's great. But you write pretty well, and none of us knows how to write at all. We don't like to write. So they used my previous life experience. As an English major, that was oh well, not proud of that, but I was able to use that and leverage that into a new life. So, you know, there's an example of an Uber driver, an example of an old English major who was able to transition those old skills. So don't think that, geez, I have no background. Trust me, you probably do.
Yeah, that's certainly true. And I appreciate you kind of touching on the fact that people from all walks of life have something that's related to the cybersecurity industry. Okay, well, what we can talk about, you know, from here, it doesn't look like our slides are functioning. It happens.
Slides are so much fun.
I jinxed the call by talking about it ahead of time. My screen is completely frozen, so I cannot see like what is happening right now. So this is welcome. This is how you start your career as a cybersecurity professionalist. You come teach me how to use GoToWebinar. That's actually the hidden
We improvise.
first step to a cybersecurity career is to get my GoToWebinar to start working again. Because right now it's a black box. But the good thing is, again, like we've said, there are many paths to a cybersecurity career. They don't all require working PowerPoint slide deck because you guys are crushing it despite my technological ineptitude. Clearly, I'm not on the path to a cybersecurity career, so I apologize in advance. But appreciate your walking me through this. We did have at least one question come in, so I don't know if you want to pivot to that. And maybe that'll give time for my slides to catch up or lag or something to take over. But a question about international cybersecurity careers, which I was kind of geeking out on because I have not seen that come in yet. We kind of think about technology as being kind of an international language, right? So maybe speak to that. Somebody was asking, hey, I want to apply my cyber skills abroad. Is there a specific career or certification track for that? And that was a new question for me, and somebody actually emailed that one in to me, so I wanted to touch on it and see what your thoughts were.
I want to make sure I understand the question right. What was it? There was an international element to it, you said?
They want to work overseas. Now, I assume they're on clearance jobs. They're probably still working for a US-based company, but in an OCONUS location. And I know that. I certainly have friends who worked for a lot of the big defense contractors and gone in other locations. But are there cyber implications? Again, I've never heard of any, but are there specific certifications or career tracks that are more applicable if you want to take your skills and you know you want to work? Not necessarily on a military base, although we know there's some of that, but if you want to work, I know like there's a lot of commercial cyber positions that are across the globe, again, maybe with a US-based company. Are there any career considerations around that? And if there aren't any, it's all universal, then that's a fine answer too, but I think that was their question, if they should.
I'll start with saying that the types of cybersecurity skills that you're going to find in any certification are going to be universal worldwide. I'll say this, but each region of the world does have certain, how should I put it, emphasis, right? For example, in Asia, they have adopted the cloud. A lot of countries in Asia have adopted the cloud more aggressively than a lot of European and countries in the United States. That means that there's a real skew towards more cloud-oriented jobs in for example, Singapore, in Japan, and I'll say also in Thailand, countries like that, Korea. The other thing I would say is that at least early on, when I say early on, up until the last few years, 3-4 years, the idea of compliance and management and things like that was very large. It was a big idea. It was a real emphasis in Europe because of GDPR. And if you don't know what GDPR is, it's a data protection regulation that applies to all European countries and countries that do business with Europe. Think about that, right? But so there are certain emphases, but generally the types of skills that you get in cybersecurity, let's say pen testing or security analytics or governance, risk management, and compliance, you'll find that they'll have applicability worldwide, but there are different areas of emphasis.
Yeah, that's great.
I love that question. Yeah, because it's funny. Because I was just in the UK talking to folks at the Royal Air Force and the Royal Army. It happened to be kind of a military-based visit this time, and they were talking. They always felt, hey, we're playing catch up because the military, we're not, as savvy as industry. And I'm like, well, I don't know. It depends. there are folks in the military, I've seen tremendous skill sets. And the fact that they see themselves behind the 8 ball, I think is interesting. A certain amount of humility is always good when it comes to security. I was talking recently to a friend of mine who works for a really large, who works for Mandiant. If you don't know who Mandiant is, Google it. They got bought by Google, I think, a year or two ago. And he was saying that industry-wide, there are some organizations that are really mature in their approach. When I do this, I mean, they're very tall, they've done very well, and they have great processes. Most organizations are like this, not like this, but like this. They have less maturity. And I think what's happening in the world is that people are realizing we're all in this together, and that it's not enough to have 1 or 2 large companies or even small companies that are mature and everybody else to be kind of just in this chaotic state. Everybody has to get their processes and mature along. Otherwise, because everybody does business with each other, small, large companies, and it's always that weak link in the chain that causes problems. So Seth, go ahead. You were going to say something.
Well, I was just saying, I'm looking on cyberseek.org's website right now. And for those of you who are wondering if this is a career opportunity with job opportunity, with, job security, right? With a good career opportunity, I would definitely encourage you to go on cyberseek.org and just kind of, peruse around that website. One of the things that sticks out to me, there's 2 things that I see right now. One is that there's currently 750,000+ jobs available in the US for cybersecurity jobs. So 750,000 open jobs, and you can look, and they have a little map of the US, and you can scroll over the amount of available jobs by state. And so you can kind of look and see where you're located and see if that's, a state that has a lot of opportunity. But 750,000+ cybersecurity job openings in the US. And of the current workers in the cybersecurity industry, 213,000 of them hold the CompTIA Security Plus certification. And so this is kind of what we really want to talk about today, right? So James has spent a while talking about career opportunity. We've even talked about just the different areas that you can go into in the cybersecurity realm. And what we want to talk about is how to get you there. Right? So all of this is kind of currently theoretical. It's currently, okay, this could be me, but how do I get there? Right? And it all starts with certification. And James talked to you guys a little bit about how you can start at a certain base, and some of you that might be different than others. Maybe some of you start at A+, some of you start with the Security Plus, and then some of you will go on for more certifications, and you'll tailor it to what your interests are. But we want to help you obtain basically CompTIA Security Plus, and so that's kind of where Skillstorm comes in. So this is kind of where I talk to you a little bit about how our company can help move you towards certification in the CompTIA Security Plus exam. So what Skillstorm does, we've been around for 20+ years. We've been doing tech recruiting and nothing but tech recruiting for that time period. And so we've been in the tech sector for 2 decades now. We've established relationships with some really great companies, Fortune 500, Fortune 100 companies, and they trust us with tech upskilling and with tech recruiting. And so they rely heavily on us to provide them with tech workers that can fill their needs at their company. And so we have a really established relationship with a lot of, really good companies. And, one of the things that we want to focus on is tech upskilling, reskilling, helping you get into the industry for the first time. And we do that through some courses on our website called Accelerator Courses. And what these courses are designed to do is to give anyone who signs up for one of these courses the skill set needed to pass CompTIA's exam. We have some partnerships with other areas of tech depending on what you're most interested in, but CompTIA is probably our most popular certification courses that people take. So you can come to us, and one of the trainers here at Skillstorm, who is an expert in his or her field, will be teaching you the skill set necessary to pass CompTIA's Security Plus exam. And so we host these courses, and what happens is we're going to teach you the skill set that you're going to need. Whenever we get to the point where you sign up for the course, what that's going to get you is some live instruction, right? It's also going to get you, so we call them asynchronous. Let me kind of not get ahead of myself. We call these courses asynchronous, and what that means is there's a combination of self-paced nature of these courses as well as instructor-led nature of the courses. And that benefits pretty much everyone, because if you think of some of the courses that you can take out there to get the skill set needed to pass a certification exam, largely you have to kind of pick one or the other, right? So you might be able to pick a live instruction course, right? And that's great. There are a lot of benefits to live instruction, right? You have that accountability factor. You have a person that you can ask questions to that has the answers. So there's a lot of benefits to the live instruction aspect of a course, but a lot of times the live instruction courses are not the most flexible courses, meaning if you have a full-time job, if you are a caretaker, if you are just kind of have a sporadic schedule, then a lot of times you're going to be, not have access to those live instruction courses, because there's a requirement to be there at certain times. And if you miss out on the live instruction sessions, then you're going to be behind. You're not going to get the skill set needed to pass the exam that you want. So there's pros and cons to live instruction. So your other option a lot of times are these self-paced programs, and there are pros and cons to those as well. So the pro is, right, if you have that more sporadic schedule, if you don't necessarily have, if you don't have the ability to maintain, go or maybe even join at the time that the live instruction sessions happen. Maybe you're working during that time period. Well, so a live self-paced course is going to be a good choice for you. But what you sometimes lack in the self-paced course is a person to ask the questions to. Maybe there's a part of the instruction that doesn't make a ton of sense to you, and you would love to get some clarification on that piece of information. And maybe you would like to have it a little bit more immediately, right? And you can't get that because this is a self-paced option. There's also sometimes a lack of accountability in self-paced courses, right? You don't have a schedule, you don't have an opportunity to kind of move forward in that aspect. And so sometimes people will sign up for self-paced courses and not finish them. So what we do at Skillstorm is we try to get you the best of both worlds with those. So we call the courses asynchronous, and here's how it works. There is live instruction every week, right? You get about 3 hours of live instruction, and here Lindy's got the how these operate. So we got, she's got a career back in the cybersecurity industry. She can go into the tech field. We are confident now she has the abilities. So, but yeah, you can see here. That's right, retired. So you can see
potential, ability to operate under stress. Whew, no.
You're doing great. So what you can see, we try to combine the aspects of self-paced courses and live instruction, right? So that you can get the best of both worlds. And it really is a solution for everyone looking to get tech upskilling, reskilling, or enter into the industry in the first time. So we do have live instruction in our courses, right? Typically it's about 3 hours a week, an hour, 3 different days. Maybe it's a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, a Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And then, so that's an opportunity for you to join, right? If you're available to gain information via the live instruction sessions. And so you can ask questions there. You can raise your hand, you can get some clarification on things. But the beauty of it is, let's say the time that the instruction is during the day is not an option for you to make. You can actually get access to the recordings of those live sessions. So we never will just record things and just regurgitate them year after year. Every time we teach a course, it is led by a live instructor. So you're always getting up-to-date information. So if you can make it to the live instruction, that's awesome. We're glad to have you. If you can't, they are recorded and you have access to them. In addition, we also have office hours with the instruction. So maybe your schedule works in a way where maybe you can't join the live instruction sessions, but maybe you have an opportunity to watch those on your own time. And then whether you attended the live session or watched the recording, there are office hours as well for the instructor that you can join and ask the questions that you need some clarification on the material. So that's how we kind of are able to be the best of both worlds to a lot of people whose schedules might not align with live instruction, but also who might want to, might want to also get some self-paced aspect to it, and also have some office hours. And I just want to go back briefly, Lindy, just want to focus on one thing real quickly, is on the authorized training partner. So we can go back to that list of all the check marks right there. One more, I think. There it is, perfect. So one of the things is that Skillstorm is an authorized training provider with CompTIA. And what I like to kind of call that is almost like if you think of social media and the blue check mark that you see, right? So, you talk about being verified. I know there's a lot of controversy with Twitter on the blue check mark, but essentially what what a verified person on social media means, like, yes, this is the real deal, this is really the person. That's kind of what it means for someone to be an authorized training partner with the tech partner. So what this means is CompTIA is basically giving us their seal of approval and saying, look, if you go through Skillstorm's course, if you meet the competencies that are set for you, if you achieve the goals set for you by them, then you will have the skill set needed to pass our exams. Right? And so that's something that is not with a lot of other people that are going to give you courses that are going to train you in how to pass these. A lot of those are not authorized training partners or providers. So I just wanted to mention that. And so we can kind of go to the list of the courses that we have. I know Lindy had those up just a second ago. These are the courses that are going to be coming up sometime soon. We have 3. Oh, sorry, that one right there. Perfect. So we have the A+, the Network Plus, and Security Plus. Obviously, today we've been talking a lot about the Security Plus as a means of getting you into the tech industry. But James can tell you all 3 of these are going to provide value to you. The more, the merrier. Lindy, I think you told us a stat last time we did this about the amount of value that a certification adds to your salary. I'm trying to remember what you said.
Oh, yes. What was it? It was like a 15K boost, I think, from our clearance jobs compensation report for having a certification, ballpark. But I think we generally see at least 8 to 10,000 increase from having a certification, you know, for cleared professionals for sure.
Yeah, so there's a lot of value that's added to you whenever you add certifications. And one of the things that I really want to highlight is the objective nature of how these certifications tell an employer and a recruiter what skill set you have. And so from being in recruiting, let me tell you, whenever I get 2 resumes from people, and let's say I get Lindy and James's resume, and they both went to college for cybersecurity, right? And they both went to different colleges. I have no idea what their skill sets are. Maybe Lindy and James both have excellent skill sets because they went to colleges that teach relatable skills. Maybe they both don't have good skill sets because their colleges that they went to didn't teach them things that are actually sought after by companies. And maybe one of them has a good skill set and the other one doesn't. I don't know because I don't know what a college curriculum teaches in that area of technology. But when I see CompTIA A+, CompTIA Network Plus, CompTIA Security Plus, I know what skill set James and Lindy have because these are objectively measurable standards of a tech skill set that I know that they have because this is a standardized test. This is something that it says this is a very specific skill set that these 2 have whenever they enter into the industry. So it's a great way for me as a recruiter or for an employer to know this is the skill set that the applicant has when applying to our job. Last thing I want to mention, I'll turn it over to James and he can kind of talk about, some of these courses, potentially if there's a one or the other that you might want to focus on. When you see the cost of these courses, not only do you get the live instruction, not only do you get access to office hours, not only do you get access to additional materials for I want to say up to 6 months even after the course is finished. These courses also include the cost of the certification voucher to go take the exam. So that price that you see there is not just to have access to the instruction and the materials. It also gives you a voucher to go take each respective certification at the completion of the course. So I wanted to mention that as well. James, do you have anything, or Lindy, do you have anything that you want to add to anything that I just mentioned there?
You bet. First, I will ask Lindy, are there any additional questions before we from the audience, and then I can talk about some of them.
I had a question come in. Yes, this webinar will be recorded. We will make sure you also get all of the slides in case you missed a few of them. So caveat on that. And then also had a question about landing that first job. This comes up often. Hey, I keep hearing you talk about cybersecurity job openings, but I have a Security Plus and I haven't been able to land a job yet. This is why I love Skillstorm, because you're great at just matching those skills and saying it is not just enough. It's not a certification alone. That's not like a check the box. That's one piece of your career journey. And again, Skillstorm does a great job of partnering with folks like CompTIA to help you build that career track. So you're not just getting a single cert, you're really kind of reskilling, upskilling into a career. So that was a question. Somebody's looking to make a career transition. They're having trouble landing that first cybersecurity job.
It's that first job that tends to be the toughest one to land. Couple of ideas for there first. find ways to emphasize the skills that you have and use keywords. Study keywords and phrases, because what happens is a lot of the resumes that get put into any company, large or small, they go through some sort of filter, some sort of web application, AI, whatever, that will look for certain phrases, certain words, and you're not finding those. That's one of the first things. I want to get deeper though into selling yourself. And this is a really important concept. As we learn, we tend to create a learning network, whatever that network looks like. For example, here's an excellent example of people who are offering you a learning network. A learning network to me is just people, back in the day, I remember whenever I would go to any sort of course, whether it be a tech course that I was learning in Linux or whatever, I'd always tap the person next to me or somebody in that room to say, look, if I miss a day or whatever, can I call you up afterwards and ask you what happened, right? But more importantly than that, somebody to bounce ideas off of, your learning network. When you're looking to get that first job, have you turned that learning network into a skills network or into a jobs network? Are you in LinkedIn? Do you have people who can vouch for you? And it's the old recommendations idea, but kind of times 10 or on steroids. It's very important that you have a professional network of folks who can vouch for you, not only to help you get that first job, because people tend to hire people they know, but two, to basically vouch for you. Certification vouches for you. You could argue that certification is a form of your employee network because it's vouching for that objective viable skill that you mentioned, Seth. But I think it's very important that as you're looking to get that first job, your network of people, how you sell yourself in that resume, how you get past kind of the gatekeepers, I think those are elements that people tend to forget about or not know about. So it's fantastic that you've got that objective knowledge, or I should say objective proof that you're Security Plus certified. I think that's great. Sometimes to get into the job market, you have to show that proof in different ways. So I'll end with that.
Yeah, and let me add to that too. Skillstorm, we're not just about upskilling, right? We also are about helping people find entry-level opportunities, because we know that there's a lot of barriers to getting into an entry-level job. Maybe sometimes the job is listed as entry-level, but then you click on it and it says you need 2 to 3 years experience, you know.
I love those.
Yeah, don't we all? You know, we just love this. Like, well, if I have 3 years experience, why would I be applying for an entry-level job? You know, so that's the question I've gotten a lot. But yeah, definitely come, you know, speak to one of us, right? We here at Skillstorm, I think my email address is at the end of this slide deck, but definitely reach out to me, right? If you already have one of these security clearances and are still looking for assistance in helping find a job, there may be an opportunity that we can help, you know, partner you with one of our Fortune 500, Fortune 100 clients that would love to be working with you. So there are a few stipulations to some of that program, but normally we have something for everyone. So definitely come see us. But largely, like, you know, James has said, like Lindy has said, adding certifications to your resume is going to make you more marketable. Right? And so the more the merrier. You're never going to have someone, I never have looked at a resume and said, you know, I really wish they had less certifications. You know, I was doing some training yesterday with some coworkers, and I was saying, we need to be reaching out to this person because look at how many certifications she has on her resume. And so that's going to be one of the best ways to market yourself, right? The more you can make yourself stand out, the more certifications that you have, the bigger skill set that you have, the more hireable you are. And so sometimes it's as simple as that, right? And so Security Plus is great. We do believe that having just the Security Plus is going to open a lot of opportunities for you. You're certainly not going to be hurting if you add continual certifications to your resume, especially CompTIAs.
That's right. Part of that, one of the things you can do in your resume and in your interviews is to emphasize the actual projects that you have worked on. And you may say, well, I'm just starting out, James. Well, I don't have many projects. Trust me, if you've helped a friend with security or helped a friend with IT, that's a project. So you can, I'm not talking about lying or exaggerating. It's direct, relevant experience that people are looking for. Certification is a proof of that, no matter what anybody might say. But if you unpack that experience that you've had, both in your classes and in your everyday life outside of classes, think about that and find ways to prove your knowledge.
Yeah, and last thing I'll probably say on that side of things, right? If interviewing for jobs is becoming difficult, right? There's always a number of different things that you could probably like try to troubleshoot, if you will, in your own in your job application process. A lot of the people that I interview, sometimes we don't choose to not move forward with them because they are unprofessional in their interviews. So I'm not saying that at all that's the situation with you, but I would say just kind of think of maybe some other ways to interview better, right? We all benefit from looking up interview prep tips, from dressing business professionally, right? A good rule of thumb, just for anyone that's listening, if you're going to a job interview, there's no such thing as dressing too professional. So that's just a tip. We see that a lot, and I wouldn't mention that if I didn't see it time and time again, where people show up to interviews wearing polos or just button-up shirts, right? So all I had to say is, maybe just start thinking about, okay, well, maybe it's not the technical ability that I have, and maybe it is, right? Maybe I could use some more certifications. Maybe that would be a solution. But a lot of times there are other things that you can do to help, separate yourself and differentiate yourself from other people who are applying for a job that maybe are not technical. And so just keep that in mind as you're looking into, different suggestions and possibilities of how to interview better for the jobs. Do we have any other questions, Lindy?
No, I think that was the only question came in. We had a few questions about how to learn out more about the program. So we're on this slide here. There is a QR code here. Maybe you can, tease to that, Seth. So if they want to learn more, is there a single best URL? I know we'll send one out after the webinar, so you shouldn't have to chase down that information. We should be chasing down you. But any other tips for getting more information about Skillstorm and the CompTIA programs?
Yeah, just go on a website, right? I mean, there's a plethora of courses that we offer, that we will train you for, ready to pass a certain certification. So go look on our website. You can also email me if you have any particular questions that you feel like need a little bit more detail. And I love, chatting with people. So we'd love to hear from you. And, either myself or one of my coworkers will work out. So we'll reach out. But yeah, we appreciate everyone coming. And if you have any questions, you can ask them while we have a few seconds left here, or email me later and I'll get to you as soon as I can.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, gentlemen. Thank you everyone who participated and who dealt with all of my GoToWebinar delay issues. For a long time, I had no idea what anyone else was seeing, but I was only seeing a black box. And I was like, I hope that the show must go on. So I apologize for that. Again, it just goes to show technology can sometimes be a little wonky, but the human piece of it is key. So I really appreciate your career advice. I think sometimes we kind of like, we'll blame the certification or blame, something else, but there is a holistic approach to finding a job. There's no one career track, even into a cybersecurity career. So I hope that's one takeaway that we got from both James and Seth here. There are a lot of different skill sets. There's a lot of different ways to land that first step to a cybersecurity career. If you are in cyber, certifications are going to be a part of it. I don't know if that's, I can lie because I'm the host and the moderator, so I'm not like holding you guys accountable, but I think like that is the one takeaway. But it is one part of it. So hopefully you've gotten a few different, points of advice or pieces to take away, but knowing that certifications will be a part of that cybersecurity career track, but the other steps, there is a lot of opportunity for it to go in different directions and a lot of different ways your career can take you. There's not really just one linear career track, and that's good. That's good for the job market we have today. Speaking for the cleared industry, we really need a lot of people to continue to pursue cleared careers. I think if you're looking at tech, if you're a technologist that's on today, it's a good reminder that there are cleared career opportunities out there. So if you're ready to pivot into something in national security, I think for sure I would say Clearance Jobs and our partnership with Skillstorm, their partnership with CompTIA, between the three of us, we would love to help you find a very rewarding, lucrative, and high-paying career supporting, the technology mission of the federal government. There's a lot of opportunities out there. So anything else that I didn't talk about before we close out, before my screen freezes again?
I think good. Thank you very much, Lindy, and thank you too, James.
Thank you
awesome.
so much.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you everyone who participated today. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. See you, James.
Hey, Seth, thank you so